While there have been several movies based on the life and crimes of serial killer Jeffrey Dahmer, including Mark Mayer's 2017 origin story My Friend Dahmer, Netflix is bringing perhaps the most in-depth and complete account of one of America's most grotesque tales to its streaming service. The 10-episode limited series, written, produced and created by Ryan Murphy of American Horror Story and American Crime Story fame, began streaming this week. While not receiving a large advertised release, the series is shot to the top of the most watched series on the streaming giant. It would appear audiences are still infatuated with the bizarre events surrounding the tall, blonde, wide-spectacled mass murderer. Indeed, this channel is focused on horror reviews of the movie variety, but after viewing episode 1 I felt compelled to write a review. It's said we are in the golden age of television, and while I mostly disagree, The Sopranos and Mad Men being the pinnacle of a now dead boom in excellent American series, such was the quality and atmospheric power of Monster the Jeffrey Dahmer Story Episode 1, I had to raise it on this channel. Having become curious in Jeffrey Dahmer's crimes after My Friend Dahmer, I read through some of the FBI crime files on the case and peered over the police investigation photographs of his apartment and the disturbing Polaroids the police discovered in a bedside drawer the night he was finally detained. The grim banality of his apartment, with the buzzing green tropical fish tank, the garish plastic containers and bottles of suspicious chemicals scattered on the floors and shelves, the empty Budweiser cans, the ominous bright blue plastic tank in the corner of his bedroom. I simply could not stop looking at the pictures, stunned at how another human being could live such a life, stunned at the plainness of it. The impact of those photographs outweighed even the darkest depths of horror cinema. The bright blue plastic tank that police would eventually recover 3 separate torsos from, full to the brim with acid to slowly dissolve and bleach the bones, a putrid smell emanating from it, reminded me of 2011's found footage shocker Megan is Missing, a film so horrible I regret pushing the play button to this day. What Monster does so well is to capture the apartment in all its grim, wretched horror. Comparing the original FBI photographs to the set used in Monster shows an impressive attention to detail and authenticity. As one of the forensic scientists observed when the real-life search took place, the apartment was more like dismantling a museum exhibition than an apartment. Right down to the beat-up cabinet upon which a VCR and small black television sit in Dahmer's bedroom, to the black and white image on the wall of a statuesque figure holding up the earth. The set designers have perfectly captured Dahmer's lair. In episode 1, we spend almost all of the 45-minute runtime in the apartment, aside from a brief trip to a gay club and the police station in which Dahmer's father, Lionel, rivetingly played by Richard Jenkins, is told the grim news. That scene, in which 2 detectives list off the discoveries made on the shelves, in cardboard boxes, in the nightmare fridge, and the aforementioned blue tank, is particularly striking, such is Jenkins' performance. The episode begins with an African-American lady sat dozing off on her sofa, gazing silently at the depressing nightly news show on her television. Then the sawing begins, a sound which pulls her to the air vent which connects her apartment to next door. We then see Dahmer shot waist high, sawing at something and washing blood off his hands in the sink. He casually smokes a cigarette while doing this, as if he's simply doing the dishes or some menial chores. He opens the fridge and we are compelled to peek inside through half-open fingers, and pulls out a can of beer which he proceeds to drain in one gulp. After putting on a blue denim jacket to match his blue denim jeans, and struggling with the various locks and bolts on his front door, we are in the corridor of his apartment complex. His neighbour slowly opens her door and peers down the corridor at him, and he stops without turning around. My heart rate shifted up a notch as I realised I was about to lock eyes with Jeffrey Dahmer, and when we see the dark pupils behind the wide-framed glasses, we understand that Evan Peters will deliver quite the performance. He has become Jeff, the lonely, evil madman. He has transformed himself into a person no sane-minded individual would ever want to. That, however, is what acting is all about. We must all now pray for Peter's sanity. The neighbour inquires not for the first time, we sense, about the stench wafting out of Dahmer's apartment. He swats it away by suggesting that his tropical fish have some rare disease and they all died. He will proffer a different explanation later to the police and his next piece of prey. After staring her down with those cold eyes, he makes his way to a local gay club. Standing at the bar, staring at himself in a mirror where he appears blurred and almost transcendental, he offers two men a drink. They remark it's not the first time he has done so, and find his choice of Pabst Blue Ribbon amusing. A third man, Tracy Edwards, seems to find this cute, having also been offered drinks by Dahmer before. You can see the attraction in Tracy's eyes as he looks Dahmer over. You want to scream at Tracy to remain at the bar, safe in the company of others, but it's not long before they are back in Dahmer's apartment. Tracy has accepted an offer of $50 to pose for some erotic, but no weird stuff photographs. In real life, the offer was $100. We can forgive the mistakes, deliberate or otherwise, of monsters such as the power it holds. I cannot look away from the screen. The atmosphere is so thick, like the putrefaction of whatever lies around Dahmer's apartment, that when he rushes Tracy with a knife, we can feel the perforated blade cut it. Tracy wants to leave, the suspicion in his eyes appearing almost instantly as he takes one step inside Dahmer's den of despair. Dahmer offers Tracy a beer laced with some unknown chemical, clearly something to knock him out, but Tracy notices the foaming on top, which Dahmer shrugs off as dishwashing liquid. After Tracy wisely declines the drink, Dahmer becomes increasingly more erratic and odd. In little time, Tracy has a handcuff around one wrist and they are watching The Exorcist 3 on Dahmer's bedroom set. Dahmer begins rocking back and forth, chanting something we cannot make out, his eyes pushing up into their sockets as a tear rolls down Tracy's cheek. Tracy proclaims that he is only scared of the movie. Dahmer asks him what he is really afraid of, Jeffrey or the movie. Tracy lies. I was unaware of Dahmer's fascination with The Exorcist 3 until this scene. Knowing that the film, which I admire for Brad Dourif's brilliant turn as a Gemini killer, was Jeffrey Dahmer's favourite movie, has certainly added an almost pitch-black shade over its reputation. In a disturbing interview Dahmer gave to American television after his incarceration, he proclaimed that he was unable to control his actions, even though he was completely aware that what he was doing was grotesque and wrong. When he committed his first murder, he states that he woke up having beaten his victim to death with his bare fists, without having any memory of the act at all. Whether his assertions are true or not, the psychiatric doctor in charge of validating his appeal of insanity came to the conclusion that Dahmer was completely sane and aware of how evil his actions were. He did them anyway. His infatuation with a film about possession certainly adds up. After putting his head to the chest of Tracy to listen to his heartbeat, Dahmer softly whispers that he's going to eat Tracy's heart. The real Tracy Edwards later testified that it was in this instant he decided to fight back, regardless of whether he would survive or not. The ease with which Tracy knocks Dahmer around and escapes, despite those hard-to-open fiddly locks and bolts on Dahmer's door, suggested to me that Dahmer either wanted to be caught or had become so lazy that his capture was inevitable. It has to be said, remarkable that Dahmer was not caught prior to this incident. The majority of his murders were committed against members of the African American community. His neighbours, also of that community, claim they repeatedly tried to alert law enforcement to Dahmer's odd behaviour, let alone the smell coming from his apartment. Once Tracy escapes and returns with police, we know the game is certainly up for Dahmer. The blood dripping from a power drill, the bloodstains on his bedroom mattress, the stinking blue plastic tank, are enough to arouse suspicions in the officers. It's when they discover those dreaded Polaroids of rotting headless corpses bent into the most bizarre poses one can imagine that one officer remarks to his colleague, "These are for real." I will not be reviewing later episodes of Monster, the Jeffrey Dahmer story, as the terrifying and despicable nature of his crimes do not deserve more than one episode. The series will be too much for some, and I remain nervous at what lies ahead. I sincerely hope this is the final time we see Jeffrey Dahmer on screen. The victims must lie in peace. respected and given the dignity that he did not afford them. Jeffrey Dahmer was beaten to death by a fellow inmate at the age of 34 after being confronted about his crimes. 2 blows to the head with a metal bar was all it took. For all the mistakes the police made that allowed him to commit far more crimes than he should have, they are surely lessons learned that will prevent such atrocities in the future.